Hello, welcome to the Retro Rejects podcast about 80s and 90s good stuff. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about the beloved family favourite, Warlock, and the sequels that followed.
Pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
So yeah, Warlock.
Indeed.
Yeah, I suppose for people who aren't, because like this is part of our 4 weeks of Halloween. I don't know, run up to Halloween. We're going to be doing horror movies for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, so we wanted to, I suppose, do ones that were lesser known. Like we could do a lot, I suppose, as well, ones that we haven't done on other podcasts before.
Yeah, so we could, I suppose, do the usual John Carpenter sort of love-in and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but we're going to try and do something different, because like my go-to for Halloween is always Trick or Treat. Not there's one with like the Jackalhead guy that it's really beloved by people of a certain age, and it's a really good anthology movie. But I'm on about Trick or, as in letter R, Treat, with Sammy Kerr, the Backward Message kind of thing. Gene Simmons in it, Ozzy Osbourne is in it. Martha Stewart plays a big role in it for people who haven't seen it as Sammy Kerr. But it's nearly, we've done those for, like, we've been doing podcasts for years, and we've done those for fucking years.
Every Halloween basically. Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, with the Warlock franchise, I grew up, I actually saw the first Warlock film in the cinema. Second one I didn't see for a very, very long time. I think it was only kind of maybe the last 10 years I saw that. And third one, only saw that the other night.
Never again.
It's awful, yeah. I will touch very briefly on that. Yeah.
It's going to be terrible.
Yeah. But that's why with the Warlock franchise, something I won't say dear to my heart. It's not up there with like Fright Night or The Lost Boys or something. I fondly remember it because I saw it in the cinema, and I think I might have owned it on video as well. I can't remember. Not so much. I don't think you were.
I wouldn't have been a sort of a fan of the Warlock or anything like that. And I suppose it was it's sort of sad looking back at it now, knowing that Julian Sands is, sort of left before his time, really, I suppose,
What was it? Because like I remember reading a while ago about Julian Sands dying and stuff, but I don't think I went into details over. But it was basically he
was an avid hiker all his life. Yeah, he's hiked a lot of different, obviously, England, America, all that kind of stuff. He's hiked new and very, very experienced hiker. But he went out for a hike. I think it might have been as early as January of this year, and unfortunately didn't. Now it is a well-worn hike, but I don't think the weather was particularly great, and it never returned, unfortunately, from his hike. And search teams out looking for him, up until June, July, I think June of this year, I think he might have been found. And it was other hikers that actually I came across. Unfortunately, Julian Sands, deceased. It wasn't the search teams, even though they combed all the hiking route and all the rest, hadn't managed to uncover him by that stage. So very sad, really, I suppose, and terrible for the family as well. It's sort of not knowing where their brother, their son, their uncle, whoever, what has happened to
them.
I
suppose we won't dwell on that too much, because we're trying to have fun with the podcast.
Yes, I know, yeah.
It's not a true crime. Well, not that there's, I don't know what you say.
No, that's it. Like. I know, that's it. But I mean, looking back on him, it is, such a tragedy that, kind of a character or a character actor like that actually elevated the Warlock, I think, past what it would have been.
He did, Julian Sands would have been, I think, for anyone who's into horror movies or kind of like around the 80s or 90s, he'd be very well known, just even outside. Like, he was in Arachnophobia. And so, he was in a ton of fucking stuff. For me, he would have been better known as in the Warlock things as well. Boxing Helena, I don't know if you remember when that came out. That was a big deal. Yeah, a very big deal. And he was the Phantom of the Opera as well. If you go to his IMDb page,
take your pick, basically, of a million different films.
He's been on loads of TV stuff as well. But like you were saying, he elevated the role, definitely, I think. And if you look at any, this is the thing about, there's not much about the Warlock film franchise, say, on YouTube. And, it's not one of those things. So for people who aren't familiar with it, and you decide to give this a listen, the basic gist of it is, it's kind of, there's a lot in the first one, I think. It's not like fucking, oh my God, I don't understand this, but a lot happens in it. Really, when you think about it as concept movies, it's kind of it's a time travel thing where it's this warlock back in the 16th century or the 17th century. Gets he's after being caught by a witch hunter played by Richard E. Grant as well, who's fucking brilliant in it. Originally, apparently, it was meant to be the other way around. Richard E. Grant was going to play the warlock. Oh, as well, it's written by David Toohey.
What? My dentist?
Or not? Yeah, was it David Toohey? I can't remember, but it's the guy that did the Pitch Black movies.
All right. Yeah.
It's David Toohey. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of people. Laurie Singer is in it as well as the kind of the Valley Girl who was a bit annoying really the whole way through.
Absolutely, yeah.
But this plant played the comedy sidekick, but is kind of still fairly handy as well. I think they're kind of equal in things, you know. She does a fair, which it wasn't like she's some screaming kind of helpless 80s girl. Like she's far from it really. She's kind of a tough nut, but it's just her character is a bit annoying. Like Laurie Singer, for people who don't know, because I don't think she's done much really over the, I don't know, maybe she just retired from acting and stuff, but she would have been better known I suppose from Fame. The people like me, I think she's a classically trained cellist, I think.
Oh wow.
Or something like that, or a violinist or something like that, so she might be doing stuff like that at the moment. I could look it up on Wikipedia, but so could she. And what would the point of being listening to people reading stuff from Wikipedia in a podcast? But yeah, with the plot, it's kind of like the warlock, he's about to be executed in fucking
they have him pinned in some medieval fucking weird torture device where his thumbs and his toes
he
are
gets out and basically jumps forward to like 1990 and Richard E. Grant's witch hunter Redfern gets caught in the thing with him, and so it's a bit of a fish out of water, but they don't do the normal fish out of water things. They kind of seem to adapt to 1990 fairly quick. I think
kind of they accept that they're in the future, and it's not like, oh my god, look, there's moving vehicles and they're not drawn by horses. Right? They're just like, oh yeah, phones, great, lovely. Yeah. Okay, I'm on board with this kind of thing.
And the warlock kind of like does a deal with the devil or some demon in the 90s, saying that he'll get the Grand Grimoire, the kind of Necronomicon fucking book, the dead kind of together for him, collect the hidden pages, which leads to a road trip.
Yes, exactly. It's like a treasure hunt and a road trip.
Yeah. So
even warlocks.
If he can get the book together, it'll mean the end of the world. The thing is, what I quite liked about it is that road trip, kind of that 80s and 90s road trip thing going on with it, where they're going from different areas, and along the way, because of Richard E. Grant's witch hunter, there's all this kind of like witch folklore kind of in, like ways to catch him. So it's like using his blood with the compass thing. There's a whole chase scene where Laurie Singer's character gets turned old, and like the warlock is holding on to her bracelet, and she has to get that back from him. So when I really like to be, when she's chasing after him, and Redfern is like, look, put a nail into his footprints and it'll hurt him. It'll kind of do. Yeah. So she's doing that. But then there's a bit where he fell on the sand and there's his head print, and she hammers a fucking nail into his head, and he's like,
I've got a terrible migraine all of a sudden.
But you got like the start of it. It starts off in LA. I think it's LA. It starts off in, and then it goes to kind of like Amish country, where they're like, get the help of an Amish guy, where the warlock is hiding up in his barn, where he's after finding some of the pages of the book that was hidden in it was an old fucking, not a table.
Kind of like a table. I suppose a writing desk or something.
I can't remember, what it was, but yeah, and then kind of like last part is in Boston, where Richard E. Grant's character is familiar with Boston, so he's like, even like there is some funny moments in it, I think, like where it's like the cabbie trying to take him for a ride, and he's like, I know Boston. It's kind of like, exactly. Don't go that way, go this way.
He's like, I've been living in Boston since 1958. How about you? And he's just like, well, it's not longer than you, buddy.
What did you think of it? Because I don't think you've ever seen it before.
No, I haven't actually. No, the first one I have to say I did enjoy. It was it was just, again, I think it was Julian Sands was very good as a character, because he was just such an absolute dickhead. He was such a cad. He was just like, I'll just murder you just to further my ideals, kind of a thing.
But it's that posh English.
It is, that's what it was.
Now, there's some fucking, the bit where he meets the kid who was like Cody from, this is the thing I was really surprised about from you, because like, I presume everyone does it, like if IMDb open or you open it up through films, kind of going, that kid looks familiar, and I opened it up and I was like, oh my god, it's like David Hasselhoff's son son out of Baywatch. But you knew his name. You were like, oh, Cody. I thought, and I was like, what?
The thing is, if you asked me to even tell you one plotline from Baywatch, I couldn't. But it's just one of these like sort of things that are on in your childhood the whole time, and it was just one of these repressed memories that sort of not repressed.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's just like it just came out of nowhere.
We're going to have to do Baywatch at some stage.
Possibly, yes. But it was just one of these things that just pops into your mind unbidden, and it's like reciting prayers as an Irish Catholic or something like that. It's just bed into you when you're younger, and it just suddenly pops back out from the depths of your poor little brain.
Yes.
Poor little shattered brain.
But it was the bit with that where Julian Sands befriends this kid. Yeah. And it kind of feels like that. Oh, maybe he's not that bad altogether.
He's
like,
just having a chat to this child.
And then he's kind of like, you're unbaptized, and then you find out that he has to use like the fat of an unbaptized child gives him.
He renders it into a potion.
So he kills the kid. They don't show it, but apparently there was a cut scene where they show, and someone had the common sense to say,
don't show a child being murdered and rendered down for fat on screen.
Yeah,
that's overly horrifying.
And as well, the thing I only found this out looking at one of the Joe Blow's videos that they had a thing about, and it's on Wikipedia about it as well with Warlock, that there was like a copycat murder. I think it was like some 17-year-old or 14-year-old guy. I'll just have a quick look at it.
I think, and an 8-year-old as well. They killed one of the 8-year-old's classmates.
Yeah, he was 14-year-old, They said that the spirit told him to kill someone else. I won't get into all that. But it had that. And like, I mean, the thing is, say, in the 80s and the 90s, Child's Play kind of got famous on the back of the Jamie Bulger murder, because the kids that did that said that they were influenced by Child's Play 3. Anyone that saw Child's Play 3, you kind of go, well, I think it was kind of like the defence trying to...
Yeah, look, these video nasties.
Get away from it, because like what they did to that kid, like Jamie, it was like, whereas with something like that, it does sound like maybe that they did, obviously they were warped and they kind of like
got the idea from somewhere, exactly,
but I thought that was terrible. But it was like, I don't know, maybe it was because like at that time, the 80s, you wouldn't say... news didn't travel around the world the same way it does now.
Yeah, that's it. You wouldn't have known about it back then.
Yeah, whereas if you're in Ireland, you only really get to see Irish news.
Yeah,
so unless it's
this
covered
thing
in
happened,
Ireland,
I think, Saskatchewan, you were saying?
Yeah, like, I mean, RT wouldn't have...
No, it wouldn't have figured.
They might have even known about it, away from those things.
Back to the actual film. But I mean, it was actually, I suppose it was unusual insofar as you were saying, one, as far as the protagonist, what's her name's character. She was basically, at the start, she was, after being kind of rescued off the streets, I suppose, really. She was staying in her man's house.
But that's only ever kind of hinted at. And she's got diabetes, which it isn't, the big deal isn't made about it, that she's like, shooting insulin. And the whole thing, like the way that the Warlock comes, he slams through their window into their living room. They're just kind of like, oh, this poor guy, let's let him sleep overnight.
Yeah, they're like, oh, drunks at the weekend. This happens all the time. And they're just like cool with letting this unconscious guy like that came crashing through the window just stay on the ground. Yeah. But I think that's possibly, I don't know, was there that much thought put into it, but it's like the backstory, our man is used to saving like strays and waifs and people like that.
And as well, even for the characterization, like her flatmate who gets killed fucking horrifically, basically gets his tongue eaten out of him after he gets his little finger cut off by the Warlock, who's like, I like your ring.
Yes, give it to me.
Oh, actually, speaking of, I saw it at the end of Wikipedia, they were saying that at the time that when it came out, it was being compared to Terminator.
Go away. I suppose, he gets spit forward through time and going around murdering people, and he's got, the chap coming after him, trying to kill him and stuff.
But still, at the same point, it's like, actually, it is very like Terminator when you say it like that. But there is that thing where it's like, oh, give me a ring. That's my Julian Sands impersonation.
Instead of like, I like her shades.
Yeah, but
motorbike.
Yeah, but it gets brutal very quickly.
Oh God,
when there is and like when he bites his tongue out and spits it on the pan. Yeah, and like, I mean, the thing is as well, a lot of times, say in 80s movies, right, people weren't like as cultured as they are nowadays, and kind of like gay characters and things were kind of seen as either kind of like the
outlandish stereotypes,
or they were the bad guys, or else they were kind of like screaming kind of queens kind of a thing, whereas in this it was just he was a normal dude, like but it was like after he got killed, the cops are talking about like diddly diddle little boys.
Was this one of his lovers?
Where your woman is standing up for, but it's, I don't know, it's semi kind of for the time, like obviously there's better kind of portrayals of gay people nowadays, like, you know, but like, I mean, for the time it was
I suppose, yeah.
a big, you know, where it wasn't
the main part of his character.
it wasn't mocking him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing
Yeah.
over it.
That sounds terrible.
it does.
All 80s films were mocking
But
people.
they were like, a lot of times they were like, I mean, Jesus,
They were
like,
played as broad stereotypes, I think. Yeah. In general, like, you know, you had the black guy, you had the gay guy, you know, you had a prima donna, you know, you had all these.
you had the Warlock. Well, it was that became, I don't know if it was Die Hard, that kind of, even though like Alan Rickman's character and it was meant to be German, but it was just like the evil English people. But did you, I suppose, throughout history, kind of like,
yes, they were.
there's a reason why people kind of
and I suppose the long blonde hair as well, it always looks creepy on a man, and it reminds me of, you know, Han's brother out of Die Hard as well, you know. And it's,
didn't he have a skinhead?
no, the brother that do you remember he ended up getting hung on the chain?
Oh, was he his brother as well?
Yeah,
I thought he was just working for him.
No, I thought that was his brother. I don't know.
So then, kind of like in Die Hard 3, Jeremy Irons' character should be annoyed that two of his brothers got killed, because he only ever says about one brother.
I don't know. We're not talking about Die Hard.
Yeah, but you're the one that's like a Die Hard expert.
I'm just, not today, I'm not. I'm distracted. Distracted by the long blonde hair.
Yes.
Shining in the sun.
But Julian Sand's perfect for the role.
Yeah.
And I think Richard E. Grant, like, I mean, I think this probably would have been on the back of Whitney and I.
Oh, really?
So, you know, like, I mean, this,
it's just a bit of an unusual casting, I suppose.
would have been a jump over to America for Richard, because like this was shot in the late 80s. It came out in 1990, I think, but it was like when New Line Cinema was closing down. So it was held for about 2 years until some other crowd bought the distribution rights for it.
Right.
But
I get you. But no, I think he brought a lot to his character as well, as far as he was he was like very earnest and eager and enthusiastic and, you know, devoted to the cause of tracking down this warlock to save
funny
the
at
earth.
the same time with it. But yeah, there was all those things. This is what I loved about it at the time. It's like why I think the two was like supernatural at first, was you had all this lore going along with it, and the kind of the lore opened up as it went along, and the film was very much like that, even with stuff where he was like with the salt, with the whip, you know, there was all these tricks that he was using to catch the witch. But there's the hidden Seinfeld connection with the Warlock movies. When it started off at first, we were like, is that fucking Mr. Pittman from... Yeah. He's like one of them.
Boss kind of thing.
But the Kavorka priest, the Orthodox, he's there as well to kind of do. But then you have... in part 2, one of the main characters, she was the journalist that like thought that Jerry and George were gay.
That's right, yeah.
And there's a few other bits and pieces that when I was looking through them, I was like, my God, he was in it.
It's that fella from Seinfeld,
yeah. And in the sequel, because I'll forget this, the main guy's dad in the sequel, he was the captain from Lethal Weapon.
Oh, right.
Ed Murphy, was it?
I don't know.
Or Edward Murphy, maybe.
Yes.
But like with so there's like this weird. There must have been some connection with, like, I know the director who did the second one. He did fucking Waxworks.
Oh, right.
And Hellraiser 3, which your woman was in as well. But I'm wondering if he had, or if some of the writers had some connection to Seinfeld or something like that.
The actors off it or something.
Because there was a few of them in it, and as well, one of the guys was in the second one. He was the one of the guys out of The Thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't remember which one. I think it might have been the doctor. No, he wasn't the doctor.
The dog. I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, he was the dog, yeah. Well, anyway, Warlock. It was a great movie. I think anyone who hasn't seen it should really.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, and it is, you know, there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Inventive sort of like little murders or little sort of traps and stuff like that they do. It's
a fun 80s adventure movie, I think, a fantasy kind of like time traveling adventure movie. It's obviously not perfect, nothing is, but it does. It feels a little bit like Temple of Doom. I think it's got that kind of vibe going along
kind
with
of adventure and action and stuff
with it. And like, I mean, even though like Laurie Singer's character is a bit annoying, she's not like where like I can't watch this.
No, but that's
she's still a bit likeable.
Yeah, I was going to say that earlier on. It's like it's not she's not either like a screaming damsel, or she's not like this like really beautiful, loving, super innocent sort of like kind to all the animals kind of protagonist. She's just a regular girl that is after getting fucked over before in her life, so she's wary of everything and she's out to look after herself. She's kind of like, well, I'm going to get my sort of thing sorted and then you're done and you can deal with it by yourself. And it's a lot more realistic, I think, just to have a character that's kind of shaded in grey rather than black and white, like a pure.
I think a lot of the characters in it, they are very, like, I really like the Amish kind of guy, because he like noticed the signs. Yeah, that was the sign where it's like the horse sweating in the morning, cream turning sour, But even then, when they get on the plane,
just sounds like a heat wave.
They kind of feed those things into it. When like Richard E. Grant is looking at someone's complaining about their cream just turning sour, and he's like, the Warlock is on the plane. I know he's on it. Or he's hitching a ride underneath. But they could have easily done a fucking... they could have turned that into like I was going to say Tales from the Unexpected. The William Shatner thing with the gremlin.
Oh, Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, yeah. They could have done it with him, like sitting on they could have expanded that into it. And it would have been expected, and you could have gone, what they're doing. But they didn't. Yeah. It was just they got to New York, and then when they were in New York, there was like, with the priest... and I thought it was his housekeeper who was pregnant. It wasn't. It was his wife. So they're obviously Protestant priests.
Something other than Roman Catholic.
Yeah,
anyway.
But it was the whole thing. It was because I was looking at the horror as well, kind of going, she's fucking very familiar, and she was the mother in The Crow.
Ah, there we
Darla in it, kind of. And I was looking up, and I was like, yeah. So there's
connections all the way around.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to kind of say about Warlock other than it's just a fun movie.
It is. It's a good old rollicking romp through time and history.
The special effects don't hold up like for shit, but they're still kind of good. Oh, and your woman that was like, there's a bit at the start where there's a psychic who he rips her eyes out and uses them as a compass.
Oh yeah, that was fucking grim.
But with her, she was like part of Andy Warhol's factory. I think she wrote a book about it and stuff, but she was like someone that was famous as well. And
it's probably just as well, we were watching that thing as well, like, deleted scene started from Warlock, and thankfully they altered this scene a little bit. The original plan when he was going to have Satan's eyes was basically he's going to rip her blouse open and Satan's eyes are going to be in place of her nipples on her breast, but apparently the test audience just roared laughing at us. So like, okay, let's not do that. That's a bit too far, and let's just have these horrible gluggery fucking gelatin type eyes in his hands, and he just it's just disgusting.
Well, as well, it was
hilarious.
He froze her like fucking and shattered her into bits, which is in
another
one of the sequels later on. I can't remember which one it's in, but yeah, Warlock, I think it's good, but it's going on to the sequels. We'll mainly cover Warlock the Armageddon. But I think Warlock the Armageddon is a 90s gore movie. It reminds me of Wishmaster. And there was like, a couple of films that were like that where it was nearly an anthology thing where like when he, like in the plot to Warlock Armageddon is you don't know whether it's like the same Warlock, probably not, because like the Warlock at the end of the first one gets killed, and when it's actually really gory. And there was a throwback to at the start of it, Richard E. Grant says, when you kill him, make sure you smash his bones into dust. It's the only way to be sure he's dead. And when he melts and all that at the end of the first one, there's like a skull there going and he fucking smashes it into dust with his foot, like, So it might not be the same Warlock. He's kind of a different character anyway. He's a little bit more that 90s Freddy Krueger kind of going on with the quips and the clever deaths. But yeah, basically he's got to collect these gemstones to that like once every 600 years or something like that. If they're all gathered, like Satan can come out of his hole. And in this, he's like the son of Satan, and he's like the Antichrist in this one. So we might, I don't know, it don't really matter anyway. No. But there's a group of druids that are sworn to defend the gems from the Warlock when it comes along, and they're basically like Jedis. They get like, special powers and shit. It's with so it's like the plot is actually, there's probably a bit more of a plot to this one.
Yeah, there probably is. And like, sort of the gem has to be given freely and stuff like that. You can't just like kill someone and take the gem.
But he basically does.
He does anyway, yeah. But yeah, it's sort of like seeing him trying to outsmart the person going, oh, well, if you give me the gem, I will give you this. And it's like, ha, I'm giving you death. It's very evil, isn't it?
The theme park one, I think, is very creative, where it kind of gets, and this is where you can see the guy who directed this. It was the chap who did Waxworks, which I really should know his name, but like my memory is fucking terrible. Let's see, what was his name? Anthony Hickox.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
But
okay.
It's got that kind of Waxworks. You've seen Waxworks, you probably don't remember it.
Yeah, no, you're correct on both counts.
But it's like they go into Waxworks, they go into this like Waxworks, and like the Billy from fucking Gremlins is one of the characters, and he shows up in Waxworks or in fucking. He's like where Julian Sands gets his clothes from.
No, right, yeah.
Oh, that was yes. There's a yeah, it's similar to Waxworks. Whereas Waxworks is like individual stories about, like, say, people getting sucked into. There's one like where it's a werewolf. We'll do one. That's what we'll do for the next episode.
Yay!
Waxworks.
Okay.
There's only 2 films, so at least we don't have to do millions of them. But yeah, they're good. Yeah. Jump forward to the next episode into the future and listen to that one.
Yeah, but then come back to this one.
Yeah, but what was I going to say about this?
I was just saying you're really on a roll of like nothing there. You're talking about Billy from Gremlins.
All right, what? But Billy from Gremlins is one of the main characters in Waxworks. But yeah, with Julian Sands' character, it's like it's fucking Armageddon, or it's like I'm after having a load of sugar or something. I'm just like,
I can't wait to tell you all these things. I must tell you everything all at once. Oh no!
But I think the big difference between Warlock, Armageddon, and the first one, like obviously the stories are different and stuff, but it's like it's that 90s ultra gore.
Yes.
Whereas like the first Warlock isn't really that gory. You have bits and pieces in it, but this, it fucking starts off with like this woman puts on like the birth gem, and like all of a sudden she becomes pregnant. Her eyes roll in the back of her head. She shoots him out, and he's like this fucking big horrible maggot kind of a thing.
Yeah.
He bursts out, and he's all covered in black, walking around with these balls swinging out, going, "Matter, come back to me, matter." And then he fucking, I think he just rips the skin off her after he uses her as a vessel for like Satan to talk through, and like the skin, he has to keep it moist throughout it with blood, so it'll act as a map for him. But it's like ultra gory. It's that 90s gore. Where I think people like in the 80s, they got all the tricks, and they kind of like, there was always this one up man shit where it's like, let's just fucking go.
Yeah, let's drown this in fake blood.
Balls to the wall.
And literally balls to the wall in this case as well. Because yes, it's not often you kind of go, is that his penis? Yeah. In the middle of the film.
But it's just fucking, it's over the top. It's completely and utterly over. Whereas I think with the first one, they were trying to have it nearly somewhat grounded in reality too.
Yeah. As much as you can be with time traveling warlocks and witchfinders and stuff.
But like this is just like, nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, let's have people flying around the fucking place. Like, it's a real random kind of thing where he just like, he gets like he turns a guy into a zombie to drive him around. But there's nothing ever really said about it.
No.
You know, it's just like, this fucking...
And it is, like, I mean, the special effects, as you said, are fairly, you know, sort of lifting the art gallery dealer or whatever. He's like, oh, let's go flying. You're so impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Go higher. He's like, yes. And then he's like, bye-bye. He just drops her.
Yeah,
and
no, that was
like
the fashion thing.
Yeah, that's what it was. Sorry. Yeah, that was,
But yeah, he just dropped her and she's just like crushed.
Splattered on the ground.
Just fucking blood out, and they were like, oh my God.
Yeah, what an entrance.
But the art dealer was where he went in and he was like, I don't want to buy the stone from you. I want to trade you for it. And he's like, I would give you the best piece of art you will ever see. Your mom was like, oh, okay. Like, without seeing it.
Fucking great art dealer. I'm surprised the art gallery hasn't been run into the ground.
And he gets turned into kind of like this weird living sculptor
Picasso
kind of thing. Which is a bit shit, but you kind of look at it and you kind of go,
it's a good idea. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the fairground one was about where your man gets trapped inside the mirror. And he's, but like, there's a bit where it's like, I don't know the correct term for it anymore. Like, it used to be kind of like little person was the last time that I knew was like the politically correct term. But there was a little person that's there in the fairground, and your man is like, I'm the freak master. That's got the gem. And he's like, oh, I'll sell it to you for £100. And your man is like, what, you fool? Kind of like, but he picks up the little person.
Oh yeah, Jesus.
And just fucking jams her into fucking an Iron Maiden with the spikes on it.
That's what I know. And actually, that was another sentence I thought I know. I was like, it's not often you see a little person getting jammed into an Iron Maiden and spiked to death.
Yeah.
Those things generally don't coexist in a film. Yeah,
and
it's very
then
horrific.
you're being called a freak as well.
Yeah,
is it?
exactly,
Yeah. But yeah, and then while all this shit is going on, while Julian Sands is going around collecting the things, that there's like 2 teenagers in a small town who were raised by fucking druids. So you have the drama going on between the two of them, their relationship. One of them, your woman's father, he went off and became a priest, and he's like not into it all, and he just wants to protect her. But for them to become warrior druids, they have to die and be reborn, and like they have like basically psychic abilities, and they can set things on fire. So you got this like training stuff going on with them to become
and
like warriors. Kind
weird
of
thing like, Daddy, why are you going to kill me? I don't understand.
That shot is fucking brilliant in that, where there's a lot of Evil Dead shots in this, kind of like that kinetic Sam Raimi stuff going on, where it's like the father, like the detective, the chief from Lethal Weapon is the dad, and he comes along with the other guy who's the old man from Enter Sandman.
Oh, of course, I remember, the video, obviously. Yeah, people are like, what, a film? No, the video.
And he comes along with the shotgun, and he's like, I'm sorry, son, and he shoots him. But when they shoot it, it's like, it's from the point of view of the bullet hitting them, and then it goes to like a face camera with the son falling backwards. I can only, it's like it's a lot of shots like in Evil Dead 2 from like where Bruce Campbell falls on the ground, or when he
just
gets
unusual
pushed
kind
along
of crash
thing.
zooms kind of a thing.
And there's a lot of that in it, and there's a lot of kind of they're trying stuff. There's a lot of stuff where it's badly dated now, but where it kind of it went grainy like a comic book.
That's right, it was almost like somebody discovered the mosaic button on a home video camera or something like that. I was like, no, I found a new style. So I could freeze frame and turn it into a comic, a strip or something.
Or they'd have a close-up of the person talking down the corner, and then the far shot of the person that they're talking to, but you could see the blur around that. It wasn't that they couldn't get like the angle right where, so they had like 2 separate shots overlaid, but they were trying, and it's quite interesting, some of the stuff. Like, I mean, I did like it. It's good 90s cheese. I think in some ways it's actually better than the first one, insofar where it is that it kind of delivers everything that it promises that it's going to. It's fucking brutal, like in parts. The death scenes are really, really good. The final battle, I think, is actually really good, because you think, these 2 kids are going to come along and they're going to wipe the floor. They don't. They get fucking killed. Like they survive it, but they get torn to fucking shit. The 2 older guys come along, and it turns into a western kind of a thing with shotguns. They shoot him, and he comes out and he does like the kind of like, I don't know, like, hey, partner, kind of and shoots him with finger guns, like literally kill, But it's good. It ends very abruptly. Like after they beat him, he's just like, Rah!
And it's like, all's well with the world again. That's fine. Yeah, let's continue on just being undead.
Yeah, where it would be nice to have maybe a bit of an epilogue. Yeah, to see who's alive and kind of.
They were probably just like, you know what, we've wrapped it up. That's it. That's all you're getting now. Guys.
Or if there was I would like to see a sequel to that one. Yeah. I thought they could have went like some interesting ways. But I really like all the actors that are in it were good as well. I find it very hard to say something bad about the Armageddon. Like, well, there's lots wrong with it, but kind of say from someone who like us who likes those kind of movies. Yeah. What did you think of it? I didn't ask you.
No. That's how I've been agreeing with you all along. Yeah, I did enjoy it, and it was sort of a nice little romp through all the different. And it was all these different settings. So like, right, we'll have a cool kind of a scene here, and then we can go over here. Like, you had the fashion thing, so you could do that. You had the art gallery, you had the carnival. So you had all these different settings where you could use different props and have different like disasters befall people. Thought that was good. Quite enjoy that kind of a thing.
Well, like, I mean, see, you wouldn't have looked at really a lot of horror movies in the 90s, would you? Like Leprechaun and like that Witchman. There was this thing where like...
Yeah, there was a strain of horror films, all right, that I probably wouldn't have gone down the rabbit hole of, like those kind of films, all right,
See, there was, because Nightmare on Elm Street did so well, and as well Friday the 13th, and so where it was like they were looking for franchises, so a lot of these movies they'd come out and it was like, it's going to be a franchise, we want to have these kind of characters that are going to be making quips like Freddy in it, and so or there's going to be some
people can dress up as them for Halloween and stuff.
And so you had, and I think they might have, I don't think they were initially trying that with the Warlock. I think Warlock Armageddon was maybe their attempt at, and they kind of succeeded at it, I think, but they fucked up then when they did the third one. The script was so bad, apparently Julian Sands was like, I'm not fucking having anything to do with this. The director, I can't remember his name. When I was looking him up on IMDb, it was like he didn't do anything after this. We got Kirsty from fucking Hellraiser is in it. She didn't do anything for a long time after this. Bruce Payne plays the Warlock in it, who isn't like Julian Sands' character. It's not a Warlock. They shouldn't have called it Warlock. They just slapped
the Warlock title on it,
It's
just
ridiculous.
To hinge it on something, I think.
It's called Warlock 3 End of Innocence. Like I was expecting, it's going to be fucking even more mental than the other one, you know, and I thought it would be, but it's not. It's like, it's your woman's. She's like Kirsty's character from Hellraiser. She gets a phone call from someone saying, "Oh, your family owned this house," and it turns out the house was like haunted. Was the Warlock murdered children there? And his spirit got trapped in it or something like that. It was
just, to be honest with you, I actually didn't follow it that much at all. It just all seemed rather unhinged and just like kind of all hung together really like randomly and stuff. And like, I don't know, every time, as I said, every time
you
I looked up,
you saw boobs.
Yeah, that was it. Like I was half like paying attention and half just like browsing, looking up other stuff and all the rest. And every time I looked up, it was like some other like, oh look, somebody's got boobs out, somebody's got a bum out, and it's like all these weird sex scenes. And I was like, what is this?
There was one because it was like it must have been after Friends came out. It was that 90s kind of thing where it's like all these alternative friends living close to each other and having fun. And guys, I can't remember the character's real name and I'm not going to bother looking up. It was so bad. But Kirsty from Hellraiser's friends, they were all that kind of, where there was one kind of like, where there's like one couple that they're like into, they're the edgy couple with like, he's got a goatee and they're into S&M. So I think that was, whenever you looked up, you probably saw them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I was the same as you. I just ended up just looking at my phone because it's just like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Now, we look at some shit.
A lot of shit, yes.
And
you can generally knock some enjoyment out of it, you know, you're just laughing away at it or just like, oh my God, that's the guy from such and such, like, but this was just, it was not painful. So bad, it was good, it was just so bad.
But that's what I mean, we have a high toleration for fucking shit, and it's just, this was awful.
Yeah.
I can see how it killed off the franchise.
Totally.
They should not have called it Warlock at all. Bruce Payne, well, I think, like a lot of people say he's fucking terrible. I thought he was okay in it from the bits that I saw of him in it, but it was just, the movie was
tedious.
Painful.
Yeah, it was tedious watching.
It was, yeah. And as well for Kirsty, kind of, oh God, I really should know her. But like, she was brilliant in Hellraiser and other things. Like, she can fucking proper act, you know? Yeah. She's beyond the scream queen, because she wasn't a scream queen in Hellraiser.
Anyway, to start off with.
Whereas in this, it's like, she was badly directed. And I can imagine people would have seen this in, say, movie stuff and went, fucking, these people
don't
are terrible.
Touch these people,
it was, it's just a fucking mess of a film.
So did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was great. yeah. Well, yeah, that's it. Like we were saying, it's not even so bad. It's good. Yeah. It's fucking awful. It's painful. I would not advise anyone to look, even out of curiosity.
Just don't waste your time. It's time you'll never get back. You could be better off.
Drags. Even when you're fucking doing other things. Even when we're fucking on the phone, browsing, it dragged. Kind of just being in the presence of this fucking thing.
Just sucking the energy out of the room. Yeah.
Oh, it's just awful. Like,
yes.
So it's kind of like, it's a sad end to what could have been a pretty good
nice
franchise.
Trilogy, that's it.
It'll be quick. I don't know, the way things keep getting remade and stuff.
You never know who's going to swing back around.
You never know. Someone kind of might get big in Hollywood that has fond memories of.
Yeah, and they might acquire the rights and off they go and have another Warlock film.
And apparently, which I did not know, there is a computer game.
Go away.
Based on the first one as well, which, if we can get our timing right and we can do things, we're kind of hoping to be streaming video games over on our YouTube channel, the Retro Rejects.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll see if we can dig it out and stream it. But apparently it's meant to be, okay. Like, it obviously didn't set the world on fire kind of with it.
Was it console or what was it?
Yeah, I think it was Super Nintendo and Mega Drive with it. So we'll see if we can find it. But as well, there was a 4-part comic, I think, that was it obviously didn't set the world on fire either. But a lot of times, like in the late 80s, early 90s, there was like these things.
There's always a tie-in somewhere. You'd either have a novelisation of a film.
There was a novelisation of it as well. Yeah,
there you go. And people would try and do a few comic, but as I said, to tie in with it. So was there any children's cartoons of it? Because that's what they always tended to do as well. That would have been hysterical. And boil your flesh, John.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's Cody from Famous. But yeah, it did. Shame that kind of
something so promising ended up in being buried by the third installment, which often happens, unfortunately, with films. You're like, the first film kind of see how it does, and then it's like, oh, it did well, and then the second one you're riding high, and then the third one is like, nope, killed it stone dead.
I think in the first one, I don't know what the budget was, but it looks like there was probably more money put into the first one, and that they had high hopes for it, and then it was just New World fucking collapsed. Second one, I think they had a great team working on it with a very, very limited budget. And this is like, when we'll go back and look at other movies, and particularly horror movies from the 80s, they had no money, but they were just really inventive with things.
And creative.
Yeah, and that's like the best movie. Like Evil Dead as a franchise was pretty much like that. And it's with the Armageddon, Warlock the Armageddon, it reeks of that, where it's like they don't, but they're just trying to elevate this as best they can and do stuff with it, where and they do. I think they do. I think it's the Armageddon is like a hidden gem. I think with stuff. But anyway, suppose just thank you if you've gotten this far. Thank you very much. For listening. Please follow us over on Substack. We're on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Yes. Yeah, and you'll find out lots of news and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. It might not all be based in reality or entirely entirely correct, but
But yes, until the next time, arrivederci. Wait, does that mean hello? No.